Welcome back to Full Sport Press. I'm Peyton,
I am Zach.
and we are going to go ahead and jump right in with our what we saw. I'll lead us off. This happened last night on Sunday. We had the U.S. facing off against Canada in the Gold Cup. It ends up going 2-2, went all the way to penalty kicks, and Matt Turner saves the day. Even before that, when we went down 2-1 in extra time, he basically set up the goal for the U.S. And in the second extra time, he crossed it all the way into the other side of the field where they headed it in, and then it was kicked in from there. So he had kind of like a hockey assist, you might say, on that goal. And then he saves the first two penalties for Canada, kind of giving us the motivation and pumping up the team. And we end up winning in the penalty shootout, advance to the semifinals. So Matt Turner, he is becoming a legend of U.S. soccer.
He's the goalkeeper, right?
Correct.
That's what I thought. Okay. Yeah, I remember watching. He played in the World Cup, didn't he?
Yes, he was the keeper during the World
Yeah,
Cup.
I feel like I remember him having a few good saves, um, while we were still in it. Man, that seems like so long ago. Wow. So what I saw is of course, I'm a homer and I don't care. Lexi Hole, her coming out party. It has been talked about all around Fever fandom. Who is Lexi Hole? We know from Stanford she can shoot really good and her defense is really good. The whole reason she's been starting this year is because of her defense. And everybody's been saying once that shot falls, it's going to get scary. And Friday night against the Mystics, that shot started falling. She scored 20 points, went 7 for 11 on field goals, 3 for 6 from 3, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals. So we still ended up losing that game, which it seems like that's just what the Fever are going to do for the rest of the season, which is fine with me if we end up with Caitlin Clark. But Lexi Hole finally stepping up her play. She's given us everything she has on the defensive end. So now bringing her game up to the next level on the offensive end. It's just great to see if you're a Fever fan. Yesterday in our game, I'm not going to get too into it, but they mixed up the rotations a little bit. And there was one rotation of Aaliyah Boston, Lexi Hole, and Grace Berger that looked really good. But that's all I'm going to say on that. Next up, Game of the Weeks.
All right, my game of the week was a little scary at first. I thought my game of the week was going to be canceled. In fact, at one point it was canceled.
Yeah.
But then the GOAT himself put his foot down and he said, no, we will not be canceling this.
Amen.
In fact, we will be doing this. Joey Chestnut takes over. He said they had announced like an hour before that they had canceled it because of rain and thunderstorms at Coney Island. And then a report comes out. Joey Chestnut is saying, get everybody out here. We're doing this.
We're doing it.
And 30 minutes later, right on ESPN2, there it is. And is there any doubt of what happened in that hot dog competition?
What was it?
Joey Chestnut.
How many?
What?
How many?
He what's it? I think it was around
62,
I think he had 60.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, 62. Which is low for him, but I know he said in the interview it has to do with the timing, like just that 2-hour difference from where it was supposed to be at 12. They had to back it up to 2. Like that just throws them off.
Oh, yeah.
So that was a part of it and all that stuff. But Joey Chestnut, once again, shows why he's one of the GOATs of American sports. And it was just a great event.
I think it's funny because we're in the world of sports. A lot of sports are outside. You've got weather. For baseball especially, you've got delays and cancellations and stuff like that happens. I remember specifically like South Carolina football game that I remember it started in the first quarter. We got about 3 minutes in and then a rain delay. And then like we started again and then another one. So it was just awful. And usually you have to wait for the weather. You got to wait on that to end. But yeah, Joey said not today. He said, I am the weather. Oh, me. Alrighty. Well, my game of the week was the All-Star draft. All-Star weekend is this weekend. We'll talk more about that later. But Asia Wilson and Brianna Stewart both drafted their teams. I'm not going to read off the whole teams or all of them here. I just wanted to point out a few things. So one, Asia Wilson played 2 games. She went with loyalty. She drafted all of her teammates except for she drafted all of her teammates. Sorry. She drafted all of her teammates from Las Vegas, and then she also picked all the Gamecocks that were in the draft. So Asia Wilson ended up with Chelsea Gray, Jackie Young, Kelsey Plum, and then also Alicia Gray. And at the 5th pick overall in the draft, she took Aaliyah Boston. So you love to see that. So it's going to be, I think what I'm most excited for on Saturday is to see Asia Wilson at the 4 and Aaliyah Boston at the 5. We never got to see it at South Carolina because it was Asia came in, won, and left, and then Aaliyah right after her. But to see those two together, you've got the absolute, no question, greatest basketball player of all time in South Carolina basketball history in Asia Wilson. I mean, there's a statue up of her at the stadium. And then also to go right behind her, someone else who has made history, not only in the same program, but also in the WNBA so far. I'm excited to see it. I'll tell you when that is later on. Let's get into our stuff.
All right, we're going to start off with the PLL. 3 teams kind of this weekend established themselves at the top of the standings, all sitting at 3-1. That is the Water Dogs, the Redwoods, and the Archers. Now, all 3 of these teams have looked good all season. The Water Dogs playing against the Chrome. They kind of shut down the Chrome's offense, honestly. It was 10-7. And something that was kind of unique and starting to become more prevalent in the PLL is the Water Dogs did not have a face-off specialist. They just let the Chrome basically win every single face-off. The Chrome's face-off guy went 18 for 19, so he only lost 1. But they just focused on getting back on defense for that first possession. And then just once they got the turnover, establishing their offense, they started off the game up 7-0, and then just kind of controlled it from there. Won 10-7. Dylan Ward played really good. He came back right before the international break. Wasn't really himself because he'd been playing box lacrosse in the NLL, but looked like himself on Saturday. He had 65% save percentage, so really good. And then moving on to the Redwoods. Wow. You know what? I'm going to come back to the Redwoods. Let's go to the Archers, who beat the Whipsnakes 15-12. Even without Grant Ament, that offense still is just really good. Whipsnakes lose another one, go to 1-3. But Tucker Dordovic still looking like a Rookie of the Year candidate. But the Archers right now are on a roll, especially Brett Dobson in goal. He had a 58% save percentage. So that they're looking really good, as well as Mike Sisselberger at faceoff. He had a great day. And then let's come back to the Redwoods, the last team that's sitting at 3-1. Now they go into this weekend facing the Chaos, who are also 2-1 and had one of the best defenses in the entire league. Now the Chaos were without their goaltender, but still the Redwoods attack really showed off. Rob Pennell had 3 goals, 4 assists. He's one of the older players in the league, in his 30s, but still one of the best. He's just an insane player. He controls the offense for the Redwoods. And then the MVP candidate, my MVP so far this season, Ryder Garnsey for the Redwoods. He had 4 goals. Every time he gets the ball on a stick, you're expecting it in the back of the net. He's just been that kind of season for him. Highlight reel goals one after another. And so Redwoods are starting to become my favorite to be PLL champions. It is a little early, so who knows, but that's what I'm thinking right now. Then our final game of the weekend, Cannons Atlas. Cannons last year were horrible, but they have put it together. They got a new coach. They brought in Marcus Holman. They brought in Matt Cavanaugh. And that attack is starting to gel, starting to get where they were expected to be coming into this year. They beat the Atlas 19-12. And, man, they played outstanding. That attack is something to look out for in the coming weeks if they can keep at that pace. Cannons are looking like a playoff team that can make a run. All right. I think that about wraps up PLL this weekend. Let's move on to the MLB. Just a few notes. I know I talked about last week the Braves and the Rays having their series coming up, and the Braves won the first 2 games, lost the last one. Let me just say the Braves have officially established themselves as the best team in baseball. Hard to argue with right now. They are just insane hitting wise. And yeah, going into the All-Star break, they're heavy favorites to win the World Series. I believe I saw just before I got on here, they had a 25% chance of winning the World Series at this point in the season, which is pretty
Wow.
crazy. That's pretty crazy. Um, so yeah, going into the All Star break, you got the best team in the NL, Braves, best team in the AL, the Rays. Then we have Paul Skeens, the LSU pitcher, officially went number 1 to the Pirates. Number 2, his teammate Dylan Cruz, the outfielder, he went to the Nationals. So yeah, Paul Skeens. There was a question of who would be him or Dylan Cruz or the outfielder from Florida, Wyatt Langford, but it is Paul Skeens to the Pirates. Um,
I will
yeah,
get to
that
see him whenever he's with the Indians, the Indianapolis Indians. So they're AAA. Tell me what that means because I don't know anything about
So
that.
there is the low A, which is the lowest level for the MLB
Mm-hmm.
farm system, the minor leagues. Then there's high A. So once they get good enough from low A, they'll move up to high A.
Mm-hmm.
Then whenever they want to be called up, they'll go to double A, then to triple A, and then the MLB.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, triple A is right
Okay.
underneath the
So
MLB.
yeah, that was what I wanted to know how far away we were. Okay, I didn't realize that.
So you have a good
Wow.
chance of seeing him a couple times,
Yeah.
probably, if not more, because triple A is the next step.
I mean,
Um,
how long is he? uh, How long are these players in the minor league system? I know it depends on how good they are, but like, how long would
yeah.
he be in it?
I would say if he pitches and he's like consistently dominant, how he was in college, you could say months.
Mm.
If he's struggling, it could be longer. It could be a whole season. It really is just going to depend on his performance. Like if he's dominant, then he won't be there very long. It could be a couple starts and he gets
Yeah.
moved up, and it could be like that every level. 1 or 2
Yeah.
starts, he dominates. They move him up to the next one. It really just
It's
depends on their
crazy.
confidence in him. But picking him
Hmm.
number 1,
I
obviously they're
mean,
going to have
yeah.
some. Yeah. This week, starting tonight, we have the All-Star break for the MLB. I believe the celebrity softball game already happened. I'm going to try to watch it somewhere because it's always fun to watch. I know Zach LaVine hit a bomb in it. There was a couple other NBA players and stuff like that, former MLB players, and of course celebrities. I know JoJo Siwa was in it.
Oh.
Um, but yeah, so that's probably out there somewhere, probably on ESPN Plus if I had to guess. Then tonight we have the Home Run Derby. So let's just go over the matchups going into tonight because they have a whole bracket that leads up into a championship. It'll be tonight at 8 on ESPN. So our first matchup in the Home Run Derby, we have the White Sox, Robert Jr. versus Adley Rutschman from the Orioles. I expect the Robert Jr. to win that one. Then we have Garcia from the Rangers versus Rosarina versus for the Rays. That one is a toss up. I'm going with the Rosarina. He has been amazing for the Rays. Then and the next one, the 2 seed Pete Alonso versus the 7 seed Rodriguez from the Mariners, and of course it is in Seattle, so he does have that home field advantage. But I'm going Pete Alonso. I believe he's won 2 home run derbies already, so kind of a favorite. Then in the that last matchup of the first round, Mookie Betts from the Dodgers and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. from the Blue Jays. So my pick to win it all, I'm going with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. from the Blue Jays. He is the 6 seed, but I think he's got it in him tonight. Who knows, though? It could go anyway. It really just depends on how they're hitting that night. But that'll be tonight, 8 p.m. Always fun to watch, see a bunch of home runs. And then tomorrow night, of course, you have the All-Star game, American League versus National League. They announced the starting lineups today, and that'll be at 8 p.m. on Fox tomorrow. All right, moving on to some soccer. Now, biggest news in soccer, biggest thing going on right now is the Gold Cup, which I did talk about earlier. Matt Turner saved some penalties. We win the penalty shootout to beat Canada and advance to the semifinals, where we will be taking on Panama. Wednesday at 7:30 on Fox Sports 1. The other semifinal is Jamaica versus Mexico, and that'll be right after U.S. versus Panama. Now, the winner of those will play in the final on Sunday at 7:30. Hopefully, the U.S. can pull out a win, and we can keep dominating the CONCACAF region.
Yeah. Yeah, I know the group chat has been blowing up over that. I saw it last night. I think I woke up with like 20-something texts, and it was all just, so.
It was a good game last night.
Yeah.
I will say it was a little tough at some points to watch, but once you got to the extra time, man, it was back and forth. And of course, the penalty shootout is always great.
Nice. All righty. Well, moving on into the WNBA. Number one, the Aces took their second loss this week, only the second one of the entire season. They are 17-2, so whoop-de-doo. Who cares if they took a second loss, honestly? But yeah, they lost, I believe, 80-82 or maybe 80-78. It was only by 2 points. It was they lost on 2 free throws at the very end, but it was back and forth all game. The Aces only played 7 players, so either some injury stuff going on there or just rest for the bench. But the only players that scored were the starting 5. And of course, they were all in double digits because that's just how good they are. That was not enough, though, for Tiara McCowan and Crystal Dangerfield. Both of them were huge boosts. Tiara McCowan is back from Turkey. I think she's been back for a couple of games, but she's finally getting back to up to WNBA speed and the dominant force she is in the paint. And then they both had 14 points, 12 rebounds from Tiara to get that surprise win over the Aces. Anytime you can beat the Aces, it's a good night. And then the Wings sadly did follow that up with a win in Indy on Sunday, which was, again, another close game. But then keep following the Aces. I want to talk about their game yesterday because, man, oh man, they beat the Lynx 113-89. Just to get the Lynx out of the way real quick, Diamond Miller, she continues to look good from injury. Remember, she had that foot or toe injury recently, and she came right back and looked solid. She had 1 or 2 down games, but then last night she had 15 again. So she seems like she's set in her ways so far in the WNBA, which is always good for a rookie. But then you get to Kelsey Plum, a.k.a. Plum Dog Millionaire. 40 points last night on 74% shooting. She went 14 for 18 from field goals and then 6 of 9 from three-point land. And man, oh man, she just could not be stopped. 40 points on your head. What do you do? And she literally can't miss. Every time she puts a 3 up, they're falling in. I would be so frustrated. But then to deal with her, you've also got to give up either Asia Wilson or Jackie Young, who we're about to talk about in a second, or Candace Parker. I mean, the team is just absolutely outrageous. The names and the basketball players they have on that team are scary. If they don't win the title this year, it's going to be a shock. But talking a little bit more about Jackie Young, because I haven't spoke about her a whole lot. She's had really good games here and there. And I knew she was having a good season, but I didn't realize it was this great. So she's averaging 19 points a game, 4 assists a game, 4 rebounds a game, 1.5. It says Sal, I believe it's supposed to be steals. So 1.5 steals per game. On the season, she is shooting 57% from field goal, 49% from 3. Those numbers are just not heard of on the season. You can do that in game. People have done that in games plenty of times. So to be shooting basically 50% from 3 halfway through the season, she needs to be getting MVP looks. And I know she's probably not because she's not even the best player on the Aces, but man. All right, and then the last thing on the Aces, with their win last night, they did make it to the Commissioner Cup final. Kind of similar to what we're going to talk about here in a second with the NBA. There's a in-season tournament, and the Aces from the Western side have made it into that final, and they'll be playing either the Sun, Liberty, or possibly Dream. I think probably the Sun or Liberty, most likely. But there are some options on that Eastern side. But the Aces have made it. The West, the rest of the West, y'all can just sit there and look up and hope you can get there one day, man. And then lastly in the WNBA that I wanted to just hit on real quick is Brianna Stewart and Nafisa Collier have announced that they're going to be starting a domestic offseason league. If you don't know, in the WNBA, it's very common for their players, whether they're a big name like Brianna Stewart or someone who just rides the bench, it's very common for them to go overseas and just keep playing, to earn some extra money, and keep working on their skills. But something that a lot of players want to see today is a chance to do that, but here in the U.S., so they don't have to go overseas. You don't have any issues like Brittany Griner that happens in that case. And then also, it's just nice to stay home. But they are going to be launching this. They want to start it by next year, like pretty quick. So there's not a whole lot to know from it yet. We know that there's going to be the 30 best players in the WNBA, or I guess the 30 best that they can get. And then also the players will be paid during it. Don't know how much, don't know where the money's coming from or anything, but it is out there and it'll be here. So yeah, exciting for that. Moving on to the NBA.
All right. So the in-season tournament groups were officially announced for the NBA. We're going to put it up on the screen, so we're not going to read off all the groups, but it's kind of split into Western and Eastern. So let's just kind of talk about how it's going to work, like how it's going to be played. So they'll play each of those teams in their group one time. And 2 of their games will be at home, 2 of the games will be at away. I don't know how they determine who they play where, but that's how it'll work. Now, once the group games are over, everybody plays their 4 games. The 6 teams that are at the top of their group will move on to the knockout round, as well as 2 wild card teams on each side.
Okay.
And then they will have the knockout rounds all the way up into the championship on December 9th. Zach, how are you feeling about this in-season tournament edition?
I will say I do not understand it, as in how it works, I guess. But does anybody really? Because we've never seen it before. I don't know. Other than that, the only thing I keep seeing, we talked about this a little bit before we started recording, is I keep seeing people like hate on it and are like, why does this even exist? Why do we need it? Blah, blah, blah. Why are we complaining? At the end of the day, whether you want to see it or not, it's more basketball. That should be the only argument. Shut up and enjoy the more basketball.
Well, I will say, I think if I'm reading it correctly, it'll make more sense, I'm sure, when it happens. It's kind of like Champions League in a way, where like they play in a group and then they have the knockout rounds of who advances. But we'll see. I'm sure it'll be great when it happens. What will be interesting is how much do teams care about it, first of all? Like, will teams take this as an opportunity to play younger guys? Will they take it as an opportunity to rest their stars? I mean, who knows? Because at the end of the day, I'm sure the priority here is always going to be the finals over that. How much are teams going to value it and put their health on the line? So it'll be interesting to see how teams respond to it, I think.
It's not the exact same thing as the Commissioner Cup from the WNBA, but it is similar in that you have this start of the season tournament type thing that just happens while the season happens, and then just this game in the middle of it. For the WNBA, it's a huge deal. Every team wants to be in it. The teams that play in that game are serious about it. I know on the League Pass, all the commercial, like, you don't get normal commercials. It's all like WNBA commercials, and they always have one that they show of last year's Commissioner Cup game, and those players were hyped to be. Asia Wilson, who is the best player in the league, should not be touching the court in a game like this, because like you said, and like everybody is thinking, who cares? It's not the finals. They care. So I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting to see. I can't imagine like athletes having a competition in front of them and not wanting to compete wholeheartedly in it. but also the NBA is a wild, wild place. So who knows?
A little bit more NBA news. Wembanyama announced today he is done with summer league. He played his 2 games.
As
I
he
guess that
should be.
wasn't enough for him. First game was a little rough. He got dunked on by Kai Jones, and he was okay. Missed a lot of shots. Obviously, his second game was a lot better. But I mean, obviously, it's hard to tell with summer league. Watch,
No rookie has been good in it, really. Like, there's
yeah.
nobody who I haven't watched a single second of it, but from the stats and the news I'm getting from it, it hasn't seemed like anybody's had a crazy performance or a really good game or anything. It seems like very bad or middle of the road stuff.
So I've watched a few of the Hornets games, and I can confidently say that the Hornets summer league team is the worst basketball team I've ever watched in my entire life.
Nice.
And
It's not too
it's
far
horrible.
off from the actual Hornets, but
Dude, it's really bad. If you just watch about 2 minutes of it, you'll understand. But yeah. So I think that was the end.
I saw that too.
Okay.
Mine came back though.
I guess we're good. I don't know.
Yeah,
Well,
I think so. I'm marking it.
all right. So that about wraps up NBA news. So moving on to college basketball, we have some more Bob Huggins controversy to talk about. If you do not know about previous events, he had the first scandal where he said a slur on radio. If that wasn't bad enough, he then got a drunk driving DUI. His bottom of his truck was filled with beer cans. So after that, he apparently resigned, and that was it, right? If he didn't resign, I think everybody assumed he was probably going to get fired anyway. It made sense. Just resign, let it be over. But
One of the two needed to happen, regardless. Yeah. One of the two had to happen. It should have happened the first time. That's not my horse to get on, though. It absolutely should have happened after the second one.
So he resigns, and everybody's like, "All right, we're gonna let him go. Be whatever's happening with him outside of college basketball. Hopefully, he figures it out." But then he decides that it was actually his wife who sent in the resignation, not himself, and that West Virginia is trying to get rid of him. Now, I'm not sure what the strategy here is, because I'm pretty confident that if he somehow the resignation doesn't count, I'm pretty sure that West Virginia is probably going to fire him at this point. I don't know what the whole point of trying to get back into the job is, because it's not going to end well for anyone.
Yeah, I'm just skimming through this article now, and it's wild. His wife supposedly just sent a text message to resign that way. That's just crazy, man. Yeah. He's going to get fired anyway, so who cares?
You have to assume. All right.
If he doesn't, then, man, I feel bad for West Virginians.
Let's go from one coach scandal to another. This time we're headed to college football, and that is Northwestern. It came out, I believe, last week. Starting last week, it started coming out about a hazing scandal. Now, if you want details of that, I'm going to let you look it up on your own. It is very graphic, so just be warned. Now, this came out through the Northwestern school, the student newspaper is the one that published this story, which is interesting. I mean, Northwestern is a journalism school, but it is interesting. I saw a lot of sports journalists saying how brave it is just to do that at a big time football school, to kind of try to be taking down the program itself. Now, based off the original investigation and all that, the claims that were made seem to have merit. These probably did happen. There was strong evidence. So Pat Fitzgerald, head coach of Northwestern, gets suspended for 2 weeks originally. And I think that might have been before details came out about what exactly happened. This week, the article comes out with what happened, and there is a massive uproar, as there should be on social media, about how in the world is he not fired, and how is it just 2 weeks?
Yep.
Go ahead.
you might be about to say it, but yeah, on top of that, more came out today dealing with racism, which was not even a single part of the earlier portion of it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So
good. Get them
I
out. Let's get these
I
bad people out of
yeah.
here. Get them out.
I
I
have to
don't.
assume he's going to get fired.
If you're enabling a culture like this, and if what the reports said are true, yeah, goodbye. You don't deserve to have a job at all.
Because I mean, even if there's no way he couldn't have possibly known that something was going on with the way, because there was apparently a whiteboard with some of this stuff on it in the locker room, so it's hard to
The
believe he had zero knowledge of what was
the
happening.
article said the coach himself was making the signals.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
So
there's nothing more damning than that.
yeah, it's pretty bad. And for Northwestern, he kind of had brought them on the up and coming, like they were kind of a nobody. I felt like, and he's been making them better, but that seems to be coming to an end, and we'll see what happens in the coming weeks. And it'll especially be interesting because we're almost into football season. I believe we're 7 weeks away, maybe at 6.5 at this point.
Oh,
Um,
we're into like the tail end of summer training camps. Like
so yeah,
recruiting's done. Like nothing is happening except for training the team right now. And if he and his staff gone 2 months, a month and a half before that, I feel like at this point they would have to just name an interim. Like
I mean, it's
even
got to be something
you would have to.
because like how in the world are you going to be able to? Because you have to assume it's not going to be just him that gets fired.
Yeah, can't be.
If yeah, and with that little amount of time, it's going to be rough for the players, I will say. But
Yeah.
hopefully for their sake, something gets figured out. All right, let's move on to our game of the week. Zach, why don't you start us off?
Yeah. So my game of the week, I've talked about it a little bit today. I've talked about it leading up to this. We are finally here in the WNBA season. Halfway through, I'm pretty sure like the Tuesday and Wednesday games are like the 20th game of the season, which is middle of the road. But we are at the All-Star break. So the All-Star game is my game of the week. It is Saturday night at 8:30 Eastern time on ABC. Like I said before, you're going to get to see Team Asia versus Team Stewie. Basically, the Aces plus Aaliyah Boston versus everybody's Stewie drafted, who are some big names, by the way. And then if you want to, beforehand, just honorable mentions at 1 o'clock Western. So that would be 4 o'clock our time. Thank you. Will also be the WNBA Starry sponsored 3-point contest. And then the Kia sponsored WNBA Skills Challenge. So I don't have a channel for either of those. I'm sure they'll be somewhere. If not, then just disregard that. The game will be on Saturday at 8:30 on ABC. I'll be watching it.
All right. My game of the week is going to be the Gold Cup final, Sunday, 7:30 p.m. on Fox. Hopefully, it'll be U.S. versus Jamaica or Mexico. It should be a great match no matter what. And hopefully, the U.S. can continue their dominance. My honorable mentions, I have two. We have the All-Star festivities for MLB, which is the Home Run Derby tonight at 8 on ESPN, the All-Star game tomorrow at 7 on Fox, and then also my PLL game of the week on ESPN Plus, Archers versus Redwoods. Both of them are 3-1. It'll be July 14th, which is that Friday? I believe that's Friday night at 8:30 p.m. So Friday night lacrosse for you, and 2 3-1 teams fighting for the top of the PLL. All right, I think that about wraps us up for this week on Full Sport Press.
I believe it does.
Enjoy your week of sports, and we will see you next time.
Bye.